All right. Sorry about the wait, folks. We're having a few technical difficulties. Maester Chow will join us as soon as he's able. Meantime, we're going to go ahead and get things rolling here. Welcome to Screaming into the Void, episode number 16, where we talk about whatever the hell we feel like. And like I said, Chow will join us as soon as he can. We have with us our other co-host, Kat loves FPS games, which is a step up from Kat still hates Amazon Prime Video.
Well, I was originally going to go with Amazon hates Prime Video until someone cool came into my live stream and started giving me really great shooter game recommendations. I just figured I shouldn't put Cat loves shooter video games since YouTube may not like that.
Yeah. FPS is probably the way to go, and any gamer worth their salt will know what FPS means anyway. So you should be covered. So how's everybody doing today? We've got let's see, Kohai's with us today. Lawrence Knight was here. I don't know if he still is, but I know he had some things to take care of today. But he was here in the chat. Josh, how you doing? Bernie, welcome. Good to see you guys. So today we're going to depart from our usual dreary topics, and by that I mean I actually have a topic today that I'd like to talk about. I think it's interesting. Kat actually gave me the idea. She went on a bit of a Twitter rant the other day, and I believe you posted a very lengthy community post on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I posted too.
About it, about how medicine and medical science is treated in science fiction versus science fact.
Yeah, especially in Star Trek because it just look, I overthink things. I will admit it, and I go a little too far when I focus on things. And it was just like, wait a minute, there's no blood in Star Trek most of the time. Even when they do, it's just a patch of blood on someone's shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, except for that episode in I think it was season 1 of TNG where everybody got taken over by the little aliens that burrowed into their heads.
Oh yeah.
And then at the end of that episode, they melt the other guy.
Yeah.
That was pretty graphic. And then he explodes.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, aside from that, generally there's not a lot of graphic blood until you get to New Trek, which we will not be discussing because it's all bullshit.
You're saying that they made Star Trek after Enterprise? Because as far as I know, they stopped at Enterprise.
I think you may be correct. Yeah.
Yeah, you must have been dreaming or something, having a nightmare.
It was a bit of a waking nightmare. I'll give you that. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. It's they never show any blood. They don't do the basics. I believe you brought up intubation.
Well, because it occurred to me, so a lot of the stuff that we take, like, it's sort of like almost like the laws of physics, where no matter what you do in Star Trek, gravity is a thing. It's the same thing here, where certain things we already have the most efficient, like you said, intubation. No matter what kind of technology you have, if someone is, it's based on me writing a story about a guy getting run through with a sword. He's breathing up his own blood. So the only way you're going to maintain an airway is to shove a tube down his throat. There's no other technology that you can do. Putting an oxygen mask on the person's face isn't going to help because they're choking on blood.
Bernie, I think that like if you're looking at Star Trek specifically, right? So you're talking about basically pressurized environments contained within a spaceship that are similar to Earth normal. They even have Earth normal gravity, which makes no sense, by the way, given how the decks are laid out. But whatever. But so like the ship is in outer space, but the environment that you're in inside that ship is as close to Earth normal as possible. So I imagine that that's actually not the case, unless like say somebody turns off the inertial dampeners and the artificial gravity and that sort of thing. Then you might be in that. And actually, Star Trek 6, when the High Chancellor of the Klingon Empire is
Yes.
killed, there is Klingon blood, which is for some reason the same color as Pepto Bismol,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
floating around in droplets, weightless, around the ship, which was kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, I imagine that. See, like in space itself, your blood would instantly freeze. First of all, um, the second it left your body, but it it I it may thicken due to the I don't know, the lack of pressure. There's no pressure in space, but inside a pressurized spaceship, I think that would probably not be the same issue. So
Well, I mean, if I did the example in my rant on Twitter and later on my community tab one is like I said, I'm writing about someone who gets run through with a sword. He's got,
mhm,
he literally is impaled with a sword in his chest. He's pouring blood from his chest. He's pouring blood from his back. If this were Star Trek, he would have a patch of blood on his shirt, a patch of blood on his back. The doctor treating him would get no blood on him at all, miraculously, somehow. They're not going to cut his shirt off. They're going to somehow treat the injury through the shirt. There's not going to be any pool of blood under him. It's literally going to be a patch of blood. Because I remember T'Pol in Enterprise gets shot, and she's got a round circle of blood, no hole in her shirt. And it's like, wait, that doesn't make sense at all. And so I was like, wait a minute, none of that, it just doesn't. Even if you have some radical technology that allows you to stop bleeding, you still have that time period between when the person gets run through with a sword and the doctor arriving. There is still going to be at least some blood on the floor around the person before the doctor arrives. They also don't wear
sure,
gloves, which is,
that's an issue. Yeah,
I mean, and people are like, well, they have the sterile field. I'm like, wait a minute. And at first I accepted that. I was actually going to originally have them not wearing gloves or masks. And then I'm like, wait a minute. It's not just about sterility. It's for the doctor themselves, who probably doesn't want to get covered with blood from their patient. And then there's the fact that why do you wear a mask? It's because you're spitting into the open surgical wound. No kind of sterile field is going to work against that. Just,
yeah, because anything strong enough to keep the spit out would also keep your hands out.
yes. So there's some basic things that no matter what century you're in, it's like the laws of physics. If you just no matter that, there's a reason why this technology has existed the way it has for decades, because it's the most efficient, effective way of doing it.
So far, yes. Um, yeah, I'll give you all that. And that's just one of the things that they do that's a little space magic-y, I guess.
No, but I mean, like, seriously, think about it. What is the best way? No, like, for example, also in Star Trek, the original series, when Spock is donating blood to Sarek, right? They
Mhm.
give him a drug to accelerate blood production, right? And originally, that was what I was also going to use in my own, where I'm like, okay, they give him a drug, but it's like, but wait a minute, in order for your body to create more blood, you need fluids. So they're gonna have to have you on an intravenous with fluids, because you're not gonna magically create fluid out of nowhere. You need the base components to make blood, because again, your body needs to intake stuff. So basically, even if you have a drug that does that, you still are going to be on an intravenous of some kind, even if it's an intravenous that doesn't use a needle. So intravenous isn't going anywhere, because if you want to infuse something into someone's body, and you're going to need to infuse stuff into a person's body.
Sure. I think they probably lump that under the because that little arch that goes over the patient table,
Yeah,
right? I think that's probably one of the many magical things that arch does.
it it infuses stuff into. Well, I mean, I know in Star Trek the original series, you can see over the bed there's a thingy, and you see the lines, and you can see something on their arm.
Mhm.
But like that's I think the only time they've ever seen anything with actual infusion that's connected to someone's arm.
That's a good point, Bernie.
Ah, that's a good point. Okay, yeah, they could replicate it, but you
Yeah.
still can't replicate it in the person's body. That would be extremely difficult.
Sure, but you should be able to like they should be able to replicate the what is the blood type that's universal? I forget which
The
is
type O.
Okay, so they should be able to replicate that for nearly anything, and obviously there are different species with different whatevers, but in general, yeah, they should be able to do that. In fact, I think that'd probably be the easiest one to replicate anyway, just because it doesn't have any specific genetic markers. Um,
Which is what I actually decided to go with, that instead of them giving him a drug to accelerate blood production, they have an artificial blood to give him instead.
mm,
A manufactured sort of replicate. Well, I mean, the Corpus don't have. I'm writing this for Warframe, and the Corpus don't have replicators, but they probably have the ability to create artificial blood, which they could give to somebody if they don't have like stores of transfused blood. Uh,
I I think actually they can create artificial blood now. It's just not the viable on a production level just yet. So they're still relying on blood banks and that sort of thing. But yeah, that is a good point, Bernie. Um, oh, and actually, since you were talking about your character with the sword sticking through him,
yeah.
uh, is the sword now while he's being treated? Is the sword still sticking through him, or have they
No,
poured it out yet? Okay,
they
so
pulled
that
it
was their
out.
first fucking mistake was pulling it out
No,
because
they
that.
didn't pull it out of him. The guy who stabbed him pulled it out of him.
Okay, yeah, so he would be gushing blood all over the place. If the blade had been left in him, he probably wouldn't be hemorrhaging quite as badly as
Yeah.
until it was pulled out. That was just something that I'd been thinking about when
Actually,
you said
someone
that.
actually suggested he's like, because we were arguing about the Warframes versus the Corpus, and he's like, wouldn't it be better if the Warframe had stuck it in him and said, "Now don't move"? And I'm like, Warframes don't do that. Warframes just go into Corpus ships and kill everybody. So his goal was just to kill him. And the only reason he managed to survive was because two idiot young officers who are like, "Let's go kill a Warframe," and then they stumble into a bloodbath, and then they find him alive. And because
Mm,
one of them is a doctor, he's able to stabilize him long enough to
yeah.
so he doesn't. But yeah, he they even tell him he probably would have, if it weren't for those two idiots, he would have.
The other thing I would mention in terms of at least Star Trek when it comes to, and actually you could even apply this to Star Wars. There's not a lot of blood in Star Wars either. Um, uh, is that when somebody's shot with a phaser or a blaster rifle or something like that, right? What they're using is a particle beam weapon. Generally, those are plasma based, and plasma burns real hot. So ideally, what would happen is that the beam would pass through and it would cauterize on its way through. Whereas
Ooh.
with a projectile based weapon, all it does is tear things open.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no,
So there probably would be less blood with a
that's true.
particle beam weapon as opposed to a projectile weapon.
But I've also noticed they have some really odd injuries in Star Trek as well. Like, for example, the one with the, I don't know if you remember the episode with the two Romulans, the first episode that brings up Tomalak, and which really hated me. One of the reasons why I don't like the Next Generation, to me, the Next Generation always struck me as very hypocritical, because especially this mission with Tomalak, where the two Romulan ships, no, the one Romulan ship with the two survivors, and one of them ends up in sickbay and he ends up dying, where he needs a transfusion from the Klingons. It's like the whole thing just didn't make sense. But they have these weird injuries that it's like, in space you're probably going to primarily
Okay,
suffer.
I remember that episode. I Did they try to get Worf to donate blood to him?
Yes, they tried
Right.
to get
Okay.
Worf, and
I
Worf
remember
refused.
that, but that never made any sense because Romulan and Klingon physiology is wildly different.
Yes.
And it's not like the Enterprise doesn't have a Vulcan somewhere down in engineering they could, you know, go get.
Yeah, that whole thing did not make any sense at all. On top of that, when Tomalak said, "Let me cross into the neutral zone to save my officer," Picard tells him no, and then it's like Picard, on the other hand, expects the opposite.
Mm,
There was a later episode with Aladar Jarrock where they're like, the Romulans are building a secret base in the neutral zone, and it turns out it's not true. But Picard expects to be allowed to go into the neutral zone, investigate this, and then leave. And he only managed to escape because he had 3 Klingon ships with him that were cloaked. And so for me, it's like, wait a minute. So you claim to, you think you have the right to go into the neutral zone. I mean, if the positions were reversed, and say Riker and Worf were on a Romulan ship, and like Riker was dying and needed a blood transfusion, and Picard would expect to be allowed to go into the neutral zone and save his officer. Whereas on the other hand, Tomalak, because he's a Romulan and his officer is dying on the Enterprise, by the time Tomalak finally crossed into the neutral zone and ignored Picard, which they were at a standstill at one point, the officer had died. It's like,
Mhm.
even if you doubt that the Romulans would care for their officer that much, it still comes down to what gives you the right to do that, whereas the Romulans can't.
Well, that is one of the reasons that a lot of other civilizations in Star Trek have a problem with the Federation, because the Federation tramps around like like they own everything and everybody's got to follow their rules. Certain other organizations and civilizations take issue with this, not least of which is the Romulan Star Empire. You know,
That's why I was a huge fan of the Romulans, because I did not like the attitude of the Federation,
yeah. In
at
fact,
least in TNG.
I think there was an episode of Deep Space Nine at one point where several aliens who were not members of the Federation were discussing. Quark was one of them. They were talking about how insidious that the Federation is, and that they're actually worse than the Borg.
I can actually see the argument for that. I don't remember the episode, but I one of the things that made me like Sisko was the fact that he actually, if you remember the episode where it was the two-part called The Search, and it turns out it was not real. And it was like they talked to the founders, to the Dominion, and the Dominion's like, we're going to leave the Romulans out, and Picard and Cisco is like, you can't leave the Romulans out. And I feel like Cisco of all captains had more moral fiber, like
Sure.
more than, like, to me Picard was a hypocrite. Uh
Welcome.
he yeah, folks, keep in mind, half of what this guy says are lies. He will say things like how wonderful it is we teach gender identity to our children, but I know him at this point, and I know that he's just saying that to get under my skin. He failed now. I've learned your tricks now.
Well, tis what it is. But yeah, where were we at with
Cisco.
Cisco is a hell of a captain. Probably my favorite as well. He was also. We used to have these arguments, and actually, I am going to post a poll in chat. So give me a few minutes to type it up, and we will be on our way with that, because I think this is an interesting question. Um, a lot of my friends and I will pose questions to each other, like who would win in a fight, kind of geek shit. But in this particular case, and I'll post the poll here in a second. I'm just going to tell you guys what it is. Which Starfleet captain would fare best against Skynet?
Yes, Skynet.
Yeah,
Cisco. I'm privileged. I'm
that's
just
my
here.
choice too. But yeah, we're gonna discuss why, because there are other captains, I think, who have qualities that would, like, Picard, for all his foibles and whatnot, is probably the best negotiator.
Mm.
He's probably the
Yes.
best diplomat.
Yes.
Kirk is in a lot of cases a look without leaping kind of guy, but he pulls shit out of his ass quite a bit and succeeds
Yeah.
too. Whereas Cisco, I think, would probably be best because he was a wartime captain.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna post a chat here, and we'll see what the well, I'm gonna see if I can spell captain correctly first. Christ. uh,
To me, I know a lot of people like Picard. I never liked Picard. I never liked Beverly Crusher. I only liked Worf when he made it onto Deep Space Nine. Once he was on Deep Space Nine, he was a much cooler much cooler character to me on Deep Space Nine. I didn't like Data at all. I found him very annoying. I did not like Geordi. I just did not like TNG at all. Uh, I know like I said, a lot of people like TNG. I just could not stand it. But Sisko and all of the crew of Deep Space Nine, I loved. Kira Nerys, Jadzia Dax, Dr. Bashir. Seeing Dr. Bashir go from that, naive kid to that experienced wartime doctor. I loved Miles O'Brien on Deep Space Nine. I love the friendship between him and Bashir, that they started out hating each other. Well, O'Brien couldn't stand Bashir.
Yeah. Uh
Wait,
they
wait,
became
wait. Sorry, what's that? He said something about like the OG, the new, and there's no new Picard. What are you talking about?
yeah, that isn't anybody's canon. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
We're just gonna move on from that. Yeah, I grew up watching The Next Generation. I watched it as it aired with my family. And so I did love those characters quite a bit. And I didn't get to really know, like my mother grew up watching the original series. And so she loves Kirk best. And I really liked Picard. And then Deep Space Nine came out and just changed the game in all
Yeah.
ways. And it was great. Um, but I personally, I identified more with Sisko. He was,
Yes, same.
you know, uh, straightforward. He was less diplomatic than Picard, but he was more, I think, more capable uh, in a lot of situations than Kirk, and definitely Janeway. Janeway was not good.
No, no, and the thing is, you saw him in so many different ways. He was so much more. I mean, the relationship between him and his son. So not only was he a Starfleet officer who went through, the battle at Wolf 359. I can't remember the number with the Borg. He
It's
lost
three
his
five
wife.
nine. You're right.
Yeah, he lost his wife. So here's the single father who, I was raised by a single father for a couple of years. So the single father, and I understand that the relationship between him and Cyril Lofton was very close.
Mhm.
Um, it was just such a well-rounded
See, you,
character.
you bring up 359 and you talk about Picard, and one of the most interesting scenes, and I think really sets up Cisco's character for years to come. Because when he gets assigned to Deep Space Nine, he's still a commander. He doesn't get promoted to captain until like season 3, I think.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember.
so he gets there, he gets the assignment and all that, and the officer that's there to basically give him his assignment is Picard.
Yeah, I remember
And
the
Picard is also Locutus of Borg, who is directly responsible for the death of his ship and his wife. And he has to stand there and not kill the man.
yeah,
That was such a good scene.
yeah,
And of course, Picard's doing his job and he's being as professional as Picard is, but you can kind of see behind his eyes too that he regrets everything because he remembers everything he did as Locutus. He remembers all of it. And so he's sitting there having to give orders to this dude. Welcome.
See how well
Hey,
this holds up
oh,
for now.
that is
Hey, we can
cool.
hear you though, so that's
Yeah, we
good.
can hear you, and that's cool.
I like your avatar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
you're gonna
Wait,
thank Akira Toriyama for that.
wait, one sec. I gotta.
So, Chow, you're coming in. We started out discussing medicine and sci-fi and kind of got into a Star Trek discussion. Um, and I posted a poll in the chat. So far, it's pretty one-sided.
Okay.
But you've been asked this
I
question before: which Starfleet captain would fare best against Skynet?
Which Starfleet captain would fare best against Skynet?
Yep,
Picard.
and your options are Kirk, Picard, Sisko, and Janeway.
Picard.
Okay, why?
Simple, because when he was Locutus, he learned his way around a network and he figured out how to take down a central net. So
That's a good point.
That is a good point. But I still have to go with Cisco, just because
yeah,
Cisco's more of a
I
badass.
like Sisko, but Picard he's my boy.
See, I think that you make a good point about being able to learn, do workarounds and stuff like that. Picard is at his heart, though, a diplomat, whereas Cisco is an actual wartime captain
I know, and I
and
get
a
that.
very effective one.
But Skynet never started there. They didn't start out as a war type AI. All right. They eventually became that when they, made war against the humans. But originally, it was one of those things that they were just trying to make things better. Kind of
Hmm.
like the Borg. They're trying to make things better.
Well, no, the Borg aren't interested in making things better for others. They're interested in
No,
making things better for themselves.
Yeah.
exactly. And that's all
Yeah.
Skynet was really up to, was making things better for itself as well. Hey, let me know if you hear this.
Nope.
Oh, sweet. That was my mute button.
Yeah. Nope. That was nice and quiet.
Sweet.
So, but yeah, no, I don't know. I think that Sisko would probably. I agree with Kat. I think Sisko would probably come out on top, but mostly because of his wartime experience and the fact that while he adheres to certain morals, he is also quite ruthless, which is something
he
that
was
Picard does not possess. Locutus did, but Picard does not.
Right. I get that.
And
You
I
know?
think he even became more ruthless because, like, for example, the whole thing with the Romulan diplomat, where it's like he didn't want to do it, but then he realized that it was the best thing, and he didn't like it having. It's like it's almost like he learned through the experiences on how to be more ruthless. He wasn't as ruthless in the beginning, but as he experienced the war with the Dominion, it made him realize just how the costs of war, and that sometimes it for the greater good, he needed to be more ruthless against the enemy, the Dominion. So it's he you that's why I love Cisco. You see him growing as a captain, you see him growing as a character. I absolutely love Cisco.
Mhm.
No,
Um,
I'm not denying that Cisco's a good captain. I mean, because he is. Um, I just, I don't know. I think the diplomat that's ready for, basically ready for anything as Picard is, it would just fare better. I mean, yeah, he'd struggle more than Cisco would, but I think in the end he would fare better.
Seeing that, I think that again would bite Picard in the ass because he would agonize over his decisions far more than Cisco would. Cisco would make
yeah,
a decision and act on it
yeah.
for good or
Yeah,
ill.
and that's fair. But you also have to remember, who does Picard have backing him up for all this stuff?
For the sake of argument, let's say that the captains do not have their support crews.
Oh, then it's
It's
Cisco.
just the captain making
Yeah,
the
then
calls.
it's Cisco. Because I was looking at the whole damn crew.
Yeah. Well, because if you go that route, then you have to give Kirk more of an opportunity to win because he's got Spock.
Right, and I do give Kirk a fair shake on stuff.
Yeah, I agree
Granted,
too.
he's one of those shoot first, guess questions never type people, but
Yeah, like
still,
and odds are he probably would try to sleep with the TX, thinking that he could come to some kind of like
Oh, he
arrangement and
definitely
get his dick
would.
burned off.
probably, and it'd be hilarious.
Oh God, I would love to see that in sick bay where he comes in, he's like, it didn't work, Bones.
Bones,
It
Bones,
didn't.
my dick is burning. Can you give me a shot? Damn it, Bones.
What did I tell you about keeping up with STD shots, Jim?
Damn it, Jim! I told you not to kiss her.
But Bones, I didn't kiss her. We just never mind.
Yeah. Now, for the sake of argument, I will say that Janeway has exactly one thing going for her. Exactly one
What?
thing.
Nothing.
Her absolute willingness to throw the rule book out the window for the sake of convenience, right?
Yeah, that's
She
true.
has no um I would say she probably doesn't even have much in the way of a moral um I'm not even sure what the right word here is, but you know what I'm saying. She's
Yeah,
you
she's
know, she
fairly
would be.
unscrupulous.
Yeah, that's exactly it. She is unscrupulous, and that I think against Skynet, which is intractable, is probably
Right.
it would serve her in that capacity. I just don't think that she has anything else going for her, and that alone wouldn't carry the day.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Oh God, that fuzzball is snoring like, dear God, how can such a small animal snore so loud? Sorry, I just suddenly am hearing someone snoring.
See, and I could also see Janeway throwing away her people's lives to achieve her aims, whereas when you're up against an opponent like Skynet, which has the sole goal of wiping out organic life, all you're doing at that point is helping it.
Right.
You know,
So
I'll
go
be
ahead.
back in 1 second.
So one of the things that used to always drive me nuts about Star Trek, especially the original series, was how much Kirk was willing to sacrifice for Spock and McCoy and like the main crew. And it's like, if that were any other officer, you'd leave them to die. But because it's Spock, then you're gonna go absolutely nuts and out of your way to rescue Spock. And it's like, no. And it's like, actually, it's because they're just the main characters.
Well, if they're wearing a red shirt, yes, he'll let them die, but he'll feel really bad about it.
Okay, that's good to know. He'll at least feel really bad about it.
He
Okay.
will. He'll spend like the whole like denouement of the episode agonizing about what just happened. It's like, oh my gosh, I took a red shirt down to the planet and they were killed, and it's possibly my fault. Oh
You know,
no,
frankly, I don't think Kirk gives a shit if a red shirt gets killed off. Just
he
saying.
does though. Watch the old series. He does actually agonize over the deaths of his crewmen. He just doesn't do shit to prevent it.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to actually log into StreamYard because I didn't have any of my admin controls.
Oh wow. Yeah.
When I just joined from Link, I'm on a new machine because as y'all know, like 2 weeks ago my laptop died.
Yeah.
So I had to actually do all this on my PC, which is kind of nuts because I've never used voice communication on this particular one, which is funny because I used to use Ventrilo, and God, that's an old program. A lot playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that'll do it. I did want to get your opinion on the because where we started out with this was talking about the way medicine is portrayed in science fiction.
Yeah.
Right. Specific. That's how we got into the Star Trek conversation because the whole thing was inspired by again a rant that Kat went on Twitter the other day.
Look, I am trying to write about a character who gets run through with a sword, and I'm trying to figure out how to balance modern medicine with future medicine. And I'm looking at it. I'm looking at presentations of sci-fi medicine. I'm going, well, if you've been run through with a sword, you're going to bleed all over the place, no matter how advanced.
Only if the sword gets pulled out. Because something that you have to understand about any type of stab wound, as long as you leave whatever stabbed you in there, that acts as a plug.
Yeah, no,
and if
in
it
this
stays
case,
there, you're good. Ish.
No,
I mean, you're still stabbed, but
he gets run through with a sword, and the sword is pulled out because it's the Warframe wants his sword back, and the Warframe is okay. Basically, the Warframe is coming on the ship to sabotage it and blow up the engine. So the engineer, in the last few minutes, manages to prevent it from the engine from blowing up. So the Warframe is pissed at the engineer for saving the ship. So he goes to kill him, and he gets very lucky. He gets found before he bleeds out by two very young officers. But yeah, he doesn't care that ripping the sword out of the guy is going to let him to die. So it occurs to me that, so I'm looking at trying to write out, so I'm trying to figure out what kind of medicine would we use even in the future versus what kind of medicine would not be necessary because of advanced technology. So for example, we were just talking about gloves and masks in surgery. And it's like, well, no matter what kind of sterile field you use, the reason you wear a mask is because you're going to spit into the patient. No sterile field is going to prevent you from spitting into someone's open surgical wound.
Right, and you sweat and it drips off your face and things like that. I mean, you're always going to wear PPE no matter what. Unless you do it with like a little fucking sonic screwdriver looking thing or a tricorder, you're going to get in contact, so you have to have that PPE.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the only thing that they might have is like some sort of advanced antibiotics or something to completely block pain going into the brain. I mean, that's what I see the future of medicine being is, that kind of stuff to where, you have an antibiotic that can kill anything. You have, a chemical or a compound that can completely stop the pain signal from reaching the brain, so you actually cause less trauma to your patient and get better recovery.
And you probably don't need, like, for us, when we do surgery, you have to be intubated because your lungs, the painkillers we use turn off lung function. But on the same time, I was arguing that intubation will still exist because the reason intubation exists is because if you are having difficulty breathing because of obstruction. So, as I said, the guy who gets run through with a sword, he's literally breathing up blood. The only way you're going to maintain an airway for him is if you shove a tube down his throat.
Yeah,
no matter how advanced your technology is, the basic method of breathing is you're gonna have to shove a tube down his throat so he can keep breathing. So it's like, I was gonna comment in what I'm writing that intubation is very rare but it has to be done sometimes. But it won't have to be done in like just basic surgery, whereas we need to do it. So yeah, there's probably gonna have more advanced anesthesias, as well, more advanced painkillers, nanobots, so miniature robots to repair and recover damage. They probably have biosutures, so sutures that will hold and get absorbed by the body.
We
They have
already
those
have
now.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Right.
probably have them already even.
No, I know
No,
we do.
not probably. We do.
I've seen 'em.
Any internal surgery when they stitch you back together, like say stitching your muscle sheet back together or something like that after an abdominal surgery. Yeah, they use biodegradable suture or
So it already exists then.
bioabsorbable sutures.
Yeah, I
Um,
used to work in a surgery department. I've seen those up close.
I also figured because he's hit by a warframe, which is much more powerful, and the sword isn't embedded in him sideways, so it doesn't go between his ribs. It actually slams into his ribs, and
Mhm.
it's enough to
Oh,
basically
so he's probably got bone fragments floating around in there too. Jesus.
yes. And I realized that they probably, because I know we're working on this technology now, which allows you to 3D print organs. So
Yes.
in his case, they would be 3D printing rib replacements for the ones that got like completely done in by the sword.
Yeah.
It's just the thing is we were pointing out it's fascinating because I was looking at Star Trek. It's like, okay, if this exact circumstance were to happen on Star Trek, the way they present medicine is so ridiculous that he would have a patch of blood on the front of his shirt, a tear on the front of his shirt, a patch of blood on the back of his shirt, a tear on the back of his shirt. The doctor treating him would not get any blood on him. There would be no blood anywhere except that patch on the front and the back, and he would be on his feet within a couple of hours. If that.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's and that is one of the things you brought up the other day about the tables in sickbay on a Federation starship, how it's just whatever the table is made of. They don't do anything else with it. There's no sheeting or anything that gets replaced. They maybe they sterilize it sonically. I don't know, but it seems a little bit unsanitary.
not just unsanitary. I mean, if you're spending the night in sickbay, you're literally lying on a flat mat with a blanket. It's unsanitary. It's also, I mean, just plain uncomfortable. If you're somebody who just got run through with a sword and are in pain from the injury, that's not exactly the kind
Yeah,
of
and that's it looks like they were covered with future vinyl, which I can't imagine is any less sticky with bodily fluids on it than anything else. I mean, even sweat will make your skin just adhere to that stuff,
yeah.
and then
And
you
so,
you you end up like peeling off of it. It's not fun.
oh oh God, I'm never gonna look at sickbay the same way again.
You brought it
Yeah.
up.
Well, because like I said, I was looking at different sci-fis to get ideas on how to combine what basic modern medicine would have to exist because it's just the most. I don't know how to put it into words. Where it's like with the intubation, it's like no matter what kind of technology you come up with, the only way you're going to maintain an airway for someone is you shove a tube down his throat. There's
Right.
just no other way you can advance beyond that. So it's like, how do you combine basic, just general necessity medicine with future medicine? And so I was looking at Star Trek. I'm like, and it's like because people are always saying Star Trek has believable stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute. While the biobeds do make sense, nobody bleeds.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
nobody goes to the bathroom in Star Trek either.
That's true. No, and the funny thing is the beds, because I was remembering there's an episode where Janeway is in her bed. The beds for the crew are normal. It's the sickbay beds that are not.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They don't go to the
I
bathroom. They
gotta
don't.
see if I can find something for you guys. It's speaking of the bathroom on the Starship Enterprise.
Hey, they show on Warframe. They show the Grenier have showers, which is impressive because everyone assumes that the Grenier would be these dirty, disgusting. It's like they actually have showers.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things that I never really got about the whole sonic shower thing. I mean, I get it, but I understand that like they use sonics in a variety of ways, medically speaking, for example, to break up kidney stones.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
That happens. But
so
like
you want to know how they actually break up a kidney stone? Speaking from personal experience, there's a couple ways they do it. The most common is like you were saying, sonic waves. It's electroshock wave lithotripsy, where they lay you on this pillow full of water and then use basically a sound blaster going through the water to amplify it, and a sonograph to find the kidney stone, and then they just beat it to death with the sound waves, and they can
Right.
only be in so long before they cause a lot of damage to the kidney. So they
Oh.
prioritize, like, oh, we'll get this stone, then this stone, then this stone, and they focus on each one. They might not get all of them, but they get some broken up, and it sucks.
Yeah, I know my
Yeah.
dad had a kidney stone once, and it was, yeah.
Well, that's what raises my point about like because in Star Trek they use sonic showers,
Right.
right? So what they're basically using is like sonic vibrations to shake the dirt off of you.
So do
But
they
that-
just play Taylor Swift "Shake It Off" all the time, or what?
I mean, I guess if you were gonna sing in the shower, and I got nothing.
Yeah, me too.
But now I definitely want to see something like that, where you got like, I don't know, some Starfleet officer dancing in the shower and going shake it, singing that song. That would be hilarious. I think
There was a thing a while back where and I can't remember if this was on YouTube or not, where someone was talking about Picard was summoning Worf to the bridge, but Worf couldn't make it because he was taking a Klingon
Yes.
shit.
I played that for you. That's by Aurelio Voltaire.
Yes.
And I want to say it's called "Poopin' on the Enterprise," and it is amazing. It's on his album Bitrektual.
what?
Yeah, Bitrektual. I'll put it in chat for you so you know what it's called.
Yeah. So, but he was unable to make it to the bridge because he was doing his business. But Klingon business is not like human business. It has spikes.
Sort of, Kalis. It has ridges. Perhaps today is a good day to die.
Wait,
This
what?
truth has no honor.
Oh God, no! Why? Why? Is that for real? Is that canon?
No,
it's
I
not
don't think
canon.
it's canon, but it's hilarious.
Oh, of course.
Oh, it's
not canon.
hilarious. I don't know.
Nobody poops in Star Trek. Not really.
Well, that's why you had me curious. I was like, wait a minute, did they actually have somebody pooping in Star Trek?
No,
I kinda
no, and
wonder how-
that was what Voltaire's whole thing was. He's like, how hilarious would it be to have that one episode, the poop episode?
Yeah, well, they don't even have like facilities in their quarters. Like I think the closest they ever got was like Troy brushing her hair at the vanity mirror. But there's nothing else there. There's no sink. There's no toilet. There's no anything. So my feeling is that if a replicator, which is basically a matter rearranger or constructor, can make things, it can also make things stop being things. So maybe they just poop into the replicator and make it go away and then recycle it.
Well,
As,
they did
like,
say
I don't know,
that
chocolate mousse.
replicator food is poop. So
I mean, on a spaceship, recycling things does actually make sense, but it's possible. It's possible, especially seeing as how Starfleet is headquartered in San Francisco, that they never really got past the whole commie utopia thing of poop being.
Oh God, no! Though you know what? At least one thing that Star Trek got right is it's still compact. Like honestly, when you look at the ships on Warframe, the ships are so ridiculously big. I mean, they have like the what are they called? This with like the stairways that where it's like on the Titanic, those grand staircases, and they've got massive statues. These ships are ridiculously big, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, my God, the amount of weight, because I was talking with Shadow, and I'm like, Kai, one of Kai's prized possessions is a collection of books I created my own Warframe culture where they have these series called the Corpus Commando books, where they're sort of like Gary Sue crossed with James Bond Corpus, and they have ridiculous titles like Corpus Forever and Corpus, and they're just and he's like, his prized possession are physical copies, and Shadow's like, wow, he must be really rich to have that much space. And it's like, wait a minute, these Warframe the Star Trek ones make sense. You still have very limited space. The Warframe ships are the amount of wasted space is insane. Like, they're massive.
Yeah. There's a lot of wasted space on a Federation ship too. As a matter of fact, the corridors, are too high. There's no reason for them to be that tall,
True.
except to move like camera equipment through while they're filming. Sure, which is
Right.
probably why they are. But like on an actual spaceship, you wouldn't waste that much space.
Yeah.
All that space would be closed off. It would be just above head height, so you could pass through. It would be a lot narrower, probably with some kind of what was I reading the other day? I believe it was in the. I am still trying to get through the Expanse series of books, guys. It's slow going. Still stuck on the third book. It's not great, but they do talk about how on one of the ships, it's a warship and it's this big old massive thing. The walls have a sort of plating over them, but behind them is like 6 inches of this gel type substance for when sudden maneuvers or battle might cause soldiers to bounce off the walls, but that way they don't get crushed against them,
Right.
kind of thing. So like the space there is not wasted, it's used for a purpose. I think it also is used to help conduct power as well, but but they're also narrow, tiny little hallways. They're bigger than Jeffrey's tubes, but not by much.
Whereas,
Right.
like I said, they have like these massive statues in these ships, and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense, especially for an organization that's supposedly so focused on profit. It's like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. That absolutely, the size of these ships is ridiculous. Just the amount of wasted space. Why do you have massive statues? Let me see if I can find one of them.
I don't know. Sure makes sense to somebody.
Yeah, I am trying to figure out how to zoom this image.
Here's this one. This one here. It's so. Though. Oh wait. This one here. This one will just show you. This is the inside. Though. Wait. Yeah. It says. Nancy Pelosi's crazy. That's just it. Wait.
Oh, Pelosi's.
Oh,
beyond
okay.
crazy.
Yeah, I got that. Give me a second. I'll pull it up on the screen here.
No. Check this out. All right. Sorry, I'm being a pest right now, but someone. Okay, that old vaping gamer. He made this for me. That is the inside of a spaceship. That is a massive statue. Why?
You're right. That's that would be there for
excessive.
like entertaining your enemies or something to intimidate them, I would guess. But you wouldn't find that on an active warship.
No, these are on active ships. Every one of their ships have multiple statues of him and his hand and the sprawling staircases. And I'm like, wait a minute. It suddenly occurred to me, this makes absolutely no sense.
Well, at a certain point, things just don't have to make sense.
Yeah, but I don't know. That just seems like, I mean, especially. No, that's just a reminder of the founder of the corpus. The founder of the corpus is called Parvos Granum, and that's a statue of him. And they have them all over the place.
I think 7-1's got it.
The rule of cool. Hey, you know what? I would love to see that meeting where they're sitting in it's like, all right. Our buddy here designed our newest warship. We're going to call it the Pillar Ship. And these are the insides. And it's like, why the hell do you have statues of our great Parvos Granum? He's like, because it's cool. And everyone goes, you know what? You're right. We got to make it cool. As long as it's cool, it's all that matters.
It doesn't matter that it's a huge liability or anything.
You realize what is like, as the medical specialist here, might I point out that those massive statues might fall on crew in the middle of combat? Doesn't matter. It's cool, Doctor. We don't care. Cool is all that matters.
Yeah. That is in a lot of cases in science fiction, that generally is what matters, is cool. Because like even the nacelles on the Enterprise, right?
Yeah.
Is poor designing.
Yeah.
It is a really poor design, especially since traveling through space. I mean, obviously there's a warp bubble that's created around the ship that protects it from, like, all the shit that it goes through. But at impulse, a mote of space dust would tear one of those things right the fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's technically what they have the deflector shield for, but the deflector shield is usually located way behind the saucer section.
Yeah.
It wouldn't protect them at all.
Well, I mean, again, yeah, the cool of cool. That's why, like, one of the things that used to piss me off about comic books is the medical aspect of comic books, where they have like literally 50 different tubes and connections, and you're like, why? What is that for, and that for, and that for? Oh, because it makes it look like their condition is serious. I'm like, but
You
what
gotta
is it
sell the
for?
drama. You
No,
gotta
but
sell it.
it's like, but at the same time, it's like, no. And then on the
So,
other,
yeah, it is what it is. Wow, our poll's doing pretty interesting here. Sisko's got 67% of the vote.
what's wrong
Janeway
with
is at a solid 0.
Thank God.
Kirk and Picard are both tied at 17. Yeah. We're going to keep that going throughout the stream, guys. I will post the final results in the description once we've finished up. But I did want to bring this up with you guys too. I spoke with Kat briefly about it backstage earlier. But speaking of science fiction and medicine, there are some things that they do that are really cool. And I think possible. There was a book written in the 60s by a woman named Madeleine L'Engle called The Arm of the Starfish.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, what this book was about was it was kind of a corporate espionage, new medical technology kind of thing. Sinister men chasing unsuspecting young scientists through the streets of Lisbon, Portugal, kind of shit. But the technology that they were going after, one of the characters had discovered a way to use the cells of the disc of a starfish to stimulate regrowth of human limbs.
Huh.
Guys.
Neat.
Right, because if you guys know something about starfish, the disc itself, not the arms, but the disc itself, is basically made up of a series of uncoated stem cells. And the starfish themselves don't really have a nervous system to speak of, so none of that's like, they're not like brain cells, they're not like what have you. And as long as if you took an arm from a starfish, as long as it had some of the cells from the central disc, it could regenerate an entire new organism from that, and does that we've proven now, because those cells are uncoated, even though they're starfish cells, they're not human cells. And according to this fictional book, which I'm mentioning, but I think that it's possible, because the book posits using those cells to like say a little kid lost his arm in a thresher, for example. Apply those cells to the stump, as it were, much in the same way that they've been using stem cells to regenerate nerve damage in paraplegics.
Right.
So
example,
wait, so what you're saying is that given our technology, if this existed, right, which its potential is very likely we will eventually develop it in the next century, Worf should never have been paralyzed.
Correct.
Yes.
You know what this sounds like, though, is well, and I know they based off Madeleine L'Engle's work because she was way earlier, but the Extremis experiment in Iron Man 3,
Mm-hmm.
where they inject you with some shit and you regrow limbs. course, consequently, you also might explode. But
Yeah, because it was extremely unstable.
explode? I don't want to explode.
Yeah, but you might get your limbs back.
No, you definitely get your limbs back, but how long you kept them depended on whether or not you could stay calm at all times.
Yeah, can you
Oh.
regulate?
No.
So,
No.
but yeah, no, I thought that was a neat concept, and I do believe that there are scientists who are researching that sort of possibility now in real time. But she wrote this book in the '60s.
Yeah, and I don't know if the experiment was in the comic books, but like I said, I'm pretty sure that they based that off of exactly that, work of L'Engle's.
Yeah, well, a lot of her stuff inspired a lot of different things. With certain Infinity Stones, for example, the Tesseract. That a lot of that stuff comes from her work with the Wrinkle in Time series.
Right.
So what you're saying is also that what's his name? Oh God, I can't remember his name. The captain who ends up in the wheelchair with the funky burns and
Pike.
everything. Pike, right?
Yep.
You're saying that should not have happened either.
Well, it could have happened, but there's no reason he had to stay like that.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Well, I mean, because I've like I said, I've been looking at the Warframe science because like I said, I've never really written anything Star Trek medical, but when you run someone through with a sword and you're trying to do the treatment for that, you start to look into it. And I was just complaining about the fact that they have organ transplants and limb replacement, and then I'm like, well, given the fact that we're working out stuff like you said with the, even though the arm of the Starfish is fiction, they are studying this. It's telling me that our medicine is probably more advanced than in some ways a lot of the medicine in well in the science in the fiction in some
Well,
ways like
and here's where I get a little hung up too on in terms of the advancement of science to get us to that point. Obviously, there are certain things that are going on that lend themselves to discovery. Take SpaceX for example, is really diving into rocket science, and they're making strides, and it's great. Um, the problem is like rocket science, medicine is only where it is because of unscrupulous Nazi experiments.
yeah, that's why I always found World War II very fascinating
you
because of
know,
the contradiction, the whole evil versus good, where it's like we have horrible evil, but at the same time we would not have a lot of what we have
right?
without
Because
the horrible evil.
some of the advancements that we've made because of that would not have been possible if traditional ethics were applied,
Mm.
because it would have forbidden those experiments because they were inhumane and cruel. You know, but we learned more from those than we have from pretty much anything else. And in fact, we're still not advancing nearly as fast as they were then because
But that
of the ethical implications of performing certain experiments.
So Star Trek would not advance as fast as well because of the ethics, whereas
Unless they started doing horrific human experimentation again in between.
which the Warframe does have. I mean, some of them do experiments on their employees.
Well, yeah, and there were also the eugenics wars that are mentioned in the past of Star Trek, but they're actually in our future. So
Yes.
so it does follow that there would be some, but that was mostly focused on breeding perfect soldiers. But I imagine they'd have to learn a bunch of new shit there, and that probably had a lot to do with it. It just and that's the problem with any kind of significant scientific advancement, that especially that involves biology in any way or medicine, is that some of these things that we now know would not have been possible if we had not done things we should not have done
Mm,
as a species.
yeah.
You
Though
know,
on the other hand, I always found the whole eugenics thing and the whole breeding. It felt like a cop out to me. Like they just didn't want to. They did it so they could explain why they don't have genetic engineering in the future. Because that's one of the things that, once it develops, it's like, do I really think that they would all end up being horrible, evil? I
right?
don't know.
But you also notice that in the future, people aren't born with defects anymore, which means that they're lying about no genetic engineering.
Ah,
You
yeah.
know, they also use that to explain why the Klingons look different in the Next Generation than they did in Kirk's time, was because when Earth was running its eugenics programs and building people like Khan Noonien Singh, for example, uh, the Klingons were running their own version of it, and there was a problem with it, and it changed their people. Right. So
Yeah.
the reason that they look like they do now is because of their failed and disastrous eugenics program that they ended up shelving.
It was an Enterprise. I remember seeing it in Enterprise.
Yeah, they talk about it a little bit there, and I think that it gets brought up in some of the apocryphal stuff. Um, the only thing Worf ever says about it is when they in there's an episode of Deep Space Nine where they end up going back in time to the episode
Yes.
Trouble with Tribbles from the original
Yeah.
series,
Trials and Tribulations. I love that
and
episode.
he's got a thing over his forehead because he doesn't want people to stare at him or whatever. And I think it was O'Brien who's just like, why those are Klingons and you're a Klingon, but
We
something's
do not talk
missing.
about that.
And yeah, and he's just like, yeah, we just don't talk about it, and it's because it's a taboo subject on Kronos.
Whereas, and I know in Warframe they do that as well. In fact, I explain how one of my main characters is autistic because he wasn't he was born naturally without, because they were born on he was born on a very poor colony, and he ended up, everyone was having kids the old-fashioned way, and that's how he ended up in a combination he shouldn't have, and so his youngest ended up autistic. But most people probably don't by that time period either.
Yeah, I am going to the question you posted in the private chat. I am going to address it publicly because I think we should be able to talk about this stuff. Um, yeah, well, because what you said was is that would mean that they would breed out stuff like homosexuality. Now that would only be true if being gay is something that you're actually born as and it's not a choice.
Which that's now becoming something. I mean,
If it is a choice, then there's no way they could breed that out.
yeah.
They couldn't like alter your genes to make you straight or whatever. If in fact it's something you're just born as, if it's just like an aberrance or whatever in your genetic code, then yeah, they could absolutely use eugenics to get rid of that. But it also might be one of those things that they didn't figure was that big a deal.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, in a way, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, look, I'm beginning to think that there's that the boundary between the two is beginning to fade because of some of the stuff going on in the schools and how they want kids to be that way, and it's like, it's kind of frightening.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm getting at with this, because I was told my whole life that it's not a choice. We're born this way. It's not a choice. We're born this way. But if that's the case, why are they spending so much time trying to recruit? Because then if being gay is not a choice, if you're born that way, then so is being straight.
Yeah.
You know,
And
um,
it's like,
and if it's not, then there's no reason for them to try and sway young children over to the other side. It would because they wouldn't inherently be capable of it if it's a genetic thing.
I see what I hear about what they're doing with kids, and I ranted about it in my live stream where I said, when the prophet worshipping merchant cult, what they're doing is not what we're doing is worse than what they do. We're doing something wrong. Even they would not do to their children what we're doing. And it's like, okay, just pause a moment, back up a moment. This is insane. This is not how you treat children. Um, I don't know. I just, it's really the Steven Crowder tweet really just blackpilled me. Where it's like, how can you do that to kids? Um,
Well,
I
yeah. This is not a subject that I really want to get too deep on in this
yeah.
channel, but it is people who hurt kids make me angry.
Yes. And actually, that's why that's why I introduced a child. I'm writing something that takes place like 8 years earlier, so I could just write about a kid being, adults behaving like adults, and how I don't know, just I have this 7-year-old who is just, I don't know, but
Just a kid.
yeah, he's a 7-year-old, but he's a child prodigy, so he's actually capable of performing surgery. He's like way too smart for his own good, but he's also just a kid. Because I was listening to the tropes on child prodigies, and they said, for example, people who write about child prodigies make them miniature adults, and they're not miniature adults. They're just kids who can learn things really, really fast. So this is the 7-year-old who, when they first come across him, he's performing surgery, but at the same time, he runs around with a stuffed toy and a toy ship. And at one point, I'm seriously considering putting this in. I don't know yet, but the perfect, like, not what is it? The straight man, the perfect straight man, or the corpus. They are so serious, so ritualistic. So the captain is like, he's like, he finds the kid is wandering around the ship and ends up on the bridge. And he ends up like peeing on the captain because he's like, he's lost and he doesn't know where anything is. So he's like, I have to pee. And they're like, what? He's like, can you hold? He's like, no. And because the corpus are so, especially the captains are so like, they look like fluffed up. Their uniforms are so over the top. So that having this little 7-year-old, because he's malnourished and underfed, he looks like he's 4 or 5, and he picks him up. He's like, he turns to the doctor. He's like, he lost something. He's like, I have to pee. He's like, why did you use the bathroom? He's like, because they're big people.
See, and to tie this back into our earlier conversation, at least people go to the bathroom on your ships. Just saying. They don't do that in Star Trek. It just magically doesn't happen anymore. There's no poop in Star Trek.
Well, I thought about it because you don't see it in Warframe. You see the showers for the Grenier, but you don't see the bathrooms. I figure you never see the bathrooms, but I also figured this, because I think about details too much. And first off, that they live on rations and water. If they're lucky, they'll get juice. That means their food has been perfectly designed so that they only pee. Because why the hell do they want their employees taking the chance to go to the bathroom and go poop? Number 2. So I figured they have perfectly balanced ration bars, which would make sense for them to limit it to the basic needs, and water or juice. Or sometimes if you get lucky, you get the stuff with the bubbles in it. So I can just see a 7-year-old who's wandering around and lost, and the adult bathrooms probably terrify him. And so eventually he's like, he gets distracted, and then he also eats too much because he's malnourished and pukes on people.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd do it.
I mean, that's how a 7-year-old would behave. Especially a 7-year-old who's supposed to be in the medical department gets dragged off and start wandering around because he's curious. He's on a spaceship for the first time. And so he's stuffing it. So he keeps yelling. He's like, cookies! And they're like, no, you're going to be sick. And I don't know. The reason I did it was because I love the image of these massive ships and having this tiny kid walking through a massive ship. And I wish I could draw. Anyway, but that's just me babbling. I don't know. And my God, this cat really does snore.
We can't hear it, so.
I'm impressed that you cannot hear her. She keeps going.
Yeah, that would get annoying. I'm amazed you haven't thrown anything at her yet. So, but yeah, that's, there needs to be poop on Star Trek, I think.
All right, let's let them pee.
They have to expel the waste. Like even the ship itself, like it leaves an ion trail, right? But it doesn't actually leave any kind of exhaust. There's no waste products from dilithium. I mean, that's not how things work. That's not how the laws of conservation of matter work.
No, you're right. They would poo as well because they have normal food. They eat normal food like we do.
Yep.
Whereas if the corpus might not have normal food like we do because they try to cut down as much as possible on their employees because they're cheap.
Yeah. Let it be known by the way, guys, this is why communism is bad, because if they succeed and they create their Star Trek utopia, a cashless society, you will have to hold your poop forever. We will have a bunch of people wandering around holding it in. I mean, this is why some of those guys look like they're in pain all the time. It's probably because they have to poop.
You know what? That would be hilarious stuff. Like one of the alien species they come across, and like, we have been observing you for a very long time. And
Mhm.
Captain Picard's all like, first contact and everything's like, we have a very important question for you, Captain. He's like excited, and he's like, when do you go to the bathroom?
Right? Yeah. It's like, I don't know how they do it on Vulcan, Spock, but I haven't pooped in 7 years.
I look forward to shore leave so I can finally get the opportunity to poop.
I mean, yeah, I imagine somewhere. I don't know. Like I said, I've never seen so much as a friggin' sink in Star Trek. And their showers have no water either, which makes no sense because you'd think they'd need to drink water, right? They have to drink water, so that has to go somewhere.
On top of that, I hate to say it, look, I don't think Sonic would work on things like sweat. Maybe it's just me, but I just don't feel like I just don't think.
Hello.
Hey, Alexia. I just don't think Sonic would work. You just want that clean, fresh feeling that I don't think Sonic would work.
Yeah, I agree. I don't understand how it worked either. I mean, unless it's like the kind of an equivalent of taking a pumice stone to your skin, which does work, but it leaves you feeling kind of raw. Because basically what it does is it scrubs off the top layers of skin and all the dirt and the grime and shit that have accumulated there.
Ah, okay, that would make sense.
So if maybe the Sonic stuff works that way. Welcome, Muggsykins.
Yes,
Sorry, I know, I recognize your voice. I just stumbled over it. Forgive me. Or your name, rather.
Maybe they transferred the poop and peep out of the people. You know what?
Possibly.
Yeah, but can they really be that detailed? That's why, for example, when they said the replicating blood, I still think they would have to infuse it into someone. They can't like transport replicated blood using a transporter to a person, because that seems like it would require a degree of detail that I don't think they'd even be willing to risk. Where it's like,
Scotty could do it.
Yeah, but Scotty's 1 in a million. Scotty can do anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Scotty could do it.
I don't know if I'd trust Scotty, though. I mean, even Scotty, I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go over there in a corner and poop. Thank you, Scotty, but no.
And then Scotty can just transport it off the ship.
Yes.
You just see the next thing you know, they're being followed by a cloaked bird of prey, right? And of course the space dust, it's just floating there, right? And they just kind of fly right into it, and it covers your view screen. And they're just like, what is this? And it's just poop.
Scotty doesn't have enough power for that, Captain.
Kapla.
Wait, they can be that detailed since they scan for viruses in the transporter and remove it from the. Oh, right. So wait a minute. If they can do that, but yet they're transporter. No, but I think that's filters.
Right. Okay. So what about guys like McCoy who were terrified of the transporters and won't use them? That's probably why he always looks so backed up, because they don't filter out the poop when he transports.
You know what? Straight to the way. I don't know if I'd really. I can just see it though, that the number of people who'd be like, "So, welcome to Starfleet. This is how we go to the bathroom." All of a sudden, a lot of people just suddenly they're like, "We started this year with 1,000 recruits eager to join Starfleet. We are now down to 200. I wonder why, Captain."
Oh man, Carrie would be disappointed to hear that. He loves him some McCoy. By the way, Carrie was not able to join us today. He sends his regards and his regrets.
I hope he's okay.
He's fine. He just he got caught up in some other stuff he had to do. So
because without Thug McCoy, this just feels so lack of thugginess.
You hear that, Carrie? If you're out there, we're not
We need
complete
you.
without you.
No, we're not complete without you. You lighten things up, and I just love Thug McCoy. No, McCoy. You know what? They would build bathrooms and plumbing just for McCoy.
Yeah, most likely. He probably you could replicate the parts of the matter replicator. I mean, you can make basically anything with those. They're like 3D printers that just access the bad parts of the universe. I will be right back myself if you would mind not entertaining the chat for just a minute.
Okay, though I don't agree with you. No, that does not make sense at all. If you don't use the restroom for a long period of time and end up constipated bad enough, you'd end up throwing it up. No, because it's already passed through into your small intestine and into your large intestine. I don't think that's possible. There's no way for it to come all the way back up. Now, you might throw up your latest meal, but whatever has made it all the way through your large intestine, that's it. It's not coming back up again. You can't throw up poop. Once it's gone through the intestines, it's not going back the other way around. So I can see that things get blocked up. Now, I'm not an expert. I would really rather speak with a doctor just to be sure. But I don't think it's possible. I think either your intestines would rupture, or you just may find yourself pooping whether you want to or not. But you wouldn't be pooping up shit. That's just not possible. You can't reverse on your intestines. Like Alexia's saying, you'd perp internal, you'd probably have ruptured, you'd eventually rupture one of your intestines. Probably and the toxins would probably also kill you. But I don't think that's possible. I mean, mind you, I'm just someone who's trying to, I don't know. But it just, the toxins would also kill you, but I think it's more likely you would rupture something on the inside because, they're elastic, but there's a limit, I think, to how much your intestines can take before they rupture. Also, I think your body would not be able to you'd eventually just poop whether you want to or not. That's why people have accidents.
Yeah, speaking of, I really wish I had a McCoy in my corner.
Why?
Or not a McCoy, let me rephrase that. I wish I had a Scotty in my corner. Yeah, definitely a Scotty. So he could just transport the poop out of me while I'm live streaming.
That
was a joke. I did not have to poop. I did have to pee though, so that's why sorry about that, folks. I try not to have to do that on stream. And sometimes it happens. It happened last night too. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old and my bladder's shrinking.
So, because if you look at the comment, like the one by Koha Masochist.
Let's see.
If you don't, that's why we were arguing. So I was like, no, you'd probably rupture your intestines.
Honestly, yeah, it would probably just break your intestines open. Either that, or your body would take over, and it would loosen up those muscles, whether you wanted it to or not. That's how people end up shitting themselves.
Yeah, that's why I don't think that's possible. Mm-hmm. But of course, the Vex on Destiny look like they're eternally constipated, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah. But if it was the intestinal rupture thing, you'd also end up with sepsis and would definitely die.
Yeah. That's one of the other things I was looking into at one point. I try to. This is one of the reasons why the whole Rings of Power and the Halo stuff gets me, because it's like, the She-Hulk, where they're like, we suck at writing law. Well, then do the research. At one point I was considering something where someone gets shot and waits a long period of time before he gets treatment. So I was looking at sepsis and what would happen. I mean, like I said, I now know how to intubate. Now I can't do it. I've never done it, but I know how the procedure works. Yes, time to change the topic. We are not going to go into poop anymore. Dear God. Anyway, I don't know.
I don't know if you guys thought this was some kind of high-class live stream. It's not.
No, we're talking about the medicine behind Star Trek.
And poop. All right, we're done. We'll move on from the poop. Apparently our chat is turning green.
Like Spock is turning green.
Well, he has green blood. That's a different thing, and that has to do with the actual compounds in it, because they are I think
Copper-based.
copper-based as opposed to iron-based. Yeah.
Yeah. Though one of the things, what was it? Oh God, I was just thinking something about Spock, and now, oh yeah, do Vulcans have a lack of tolerance for cold, or are very good in cold? Because I have heard both. Uploads as no.
Oh man, Alexia,
They're
you're
not.
kicking the pants.
Dude, damn it! Now you have me wondering. You now have me thinking about the corpus pooping their own pants because they're wearing spacesuits. So what is it like to poop in those? That must be a real fun mess to clean up.
You know, Josh, I know we're talking about poop here, but we don't have to bring her up. You know, like 17 pounds of poop in a 5-pound bag in a pantsuit.
Oh God, not her. And don't get me started on the crazy ass lunatic from House of the Dragon who has probably never met a woman for Trump in her life.
Yeah, I don't know. I still haven't watched any of that. I took some of Nerdrotic's advice and started watching Silicon Valley, which is goofy nerd stuff. But yeah, it's okay. I'll admit it. It's okay. It's kind of funny, but it's not. You know, I don't know. I'm not finding it as engaging as I thought it might be. But
well, I'm tempted to subscribe to Netflix because of the number of shows people are telling me to watch from Netflix and maybe having it for a month or two and just watching straight.
you can do the sign up for a week. Yeah, or when you sign up, you sign up for the month, but you get like a week free trial. If you cancel before that free trial is over, you know, you don't have to worry too much. But even if like what I'll do sometimes, if there's occasionally like the 5th season of Cobra Kai just went up last month, so I signed up for Netflix, I watched it, and then I canceled Netflix.
Wait, no, no,
I still gotta pay them for that month, but I don't. It's not like a recurring thing.
No. Can we stop with the no,
dude,
no,
dude,
no? Why?
Dude.
No, ew. No. She is probably a year or two. She's what? She's Biden levels of ancient. She just.
I think she's actually older than he is.
Oh dear God.
Pretty close.
Oh dear God. Twice the new cyberpunk.
I will say, Mexicans, absolutely, that is hilarious. Because she lives in a gated community.
Wait, somebody actually did that?
Oh yes. He had to hop a fence and dodge security long enough to drop a deuce on her driveway.
Oh, that is awesome.
And they could escort him out of the gated community because, community rules or whatever, but they could not charge him for it because they had recently made it legal to take a shit anywhere within San Francisco city limits, so they had to just let him go.
Oh my God. Okay, that is just awesome and just such brilliant karma.
Yeah, that was pretty fucking funny. But yeah. Which show are you referring to, Falksad?
There's a show on Netflix based on the video game Cyberpunk 2077, which actually has actually grown the player base by several 100%, because the game, when it was released, was broken. I mean, on console, because it was like unplayable on PS4 or Xbox One, and they were lucky that the new Xbox and the new PlayStation 5 had been released, or it would have been. I mean, it was barely playable on those. It was primarily playable only on PC, so the game was like really broken. And they're saying this game has suddenly jumped because of the show. Clownfish TV did a video where they were saying that one of the characters, they supposedly initially found it problematic because it was a lolly, and they're like, no, she's one of our most popular characters. We're not changing it because your wokey wokes don't like it. And turns out it was a very popular character, and it was a good thing they didn't change it. And it wasn't a lolly.
Loved lollies.
I don't know any.
I mean,
I don't know
you
anymore.
know, I'm not going to dwell on this subject, but why else would they be in the maps corners? And for the record, y'all, maps go on the wall. Best place for them.
The game was incomplete, which is one of the reasons why. Yeah, it's still. Yeah, I've heard a lot of things. So you want to know how the way I know it is so bad is PlayStation removed it from their store. So you could not buy it digitally from PlayStation, and some stores that normally don't take video game returns after you open it were taking returns. I think GameStop was taking returns, Amazon was taking returns, Best Buy was taking returns of opened Cyberpunk games for like 2 weeks because it was just so broken when it first released. And that it was only really people who had it on high-end PCs said it was only playable there. It was incomplete. The game just was not released finished.
Real quick, Alexia, isn't Lolly like underage?
Well, that's why they said it was Lolly, and they're like, no, it's not Lolly. It's just she's a short, petite woman. And so they like did automatic refunds, no question. Yeah.
Yeah, but that'd be my concern there is because I mean to a degree it's silly because they're fictional drawings.
No,
You
well,
know,
they said, yeah, no, they said that it's not. Everyone was complaining, saying it's Lolly, and they're like, no, it's not. It's just a petite woman, a small adult woman, and she even says, like, she's not a kid.
all right. Well,
I don't know.
I don't know enough about it. I know that there is a rather large community of men my age who are really into that sort of thing, along with My Little Pony and dressing like a fox and going to conventions.
All I know is
It's a whole subset of men who are into things that should really appeal to little girls.
you know what? Like I said, all I know is that they wanted to cancel the Wokey Wokes wanted to cancel character. They said no. The character turned out to be ridiculously popular, and nobody likes Wokey Wokes. Get woke, go broke. Period. The police system. Oh yeah, they haven't fixed that. Okay, so yeah, the police system is also ridiculously broken, and I don't think she's saying they haven't fixed that yet. So I have the game. I got it for very younger looking female doesn't mean age. Okay,
Okay, yeah, that's just the only reason I ask is because a lot of like in anime, for example, where I think the term comes from, there tends to be a lot of younger looking females, and some of them are actually young, and they get like these fan bases that are very sexualized for some fucking reason. So on the one hand, I kind of get the argument that it's just a damn drawing, but on the other hand, slippery slope.
The thing is also anime. The style makes all characters look young. I mean, you'd read stuff and you're like, that looks. Why did you do that?
Wait, I just did. I spent the last 5 minutes talking about it, saying that maybe this is not like a great thing.
Why do you don't Google? Well, no. That's entirely on you. That is entirely on you. You Googled it. I didn't tell you to Google it. Did he? No, he didn't tell you to Google it. You Googled it.
There's a lot of stuff you shouldn't Google. Pretty much Rule 34. Don't Google. You're not going to like what you find.
Though
or you might, but whatever.
All right, what'd I miss? Had some family stuff to take care of.
Oh dear
Rule
God,
34.
you don't want to know.
That's all right.
Though I'll say this to credit for Google. So I don't know if you've heard that Stadia has failed. They're closing right. So I actually this is gonna. I had Stadia. I've used Stadia. I like Stadia. Yeah. It worked. A lot of people are complaining about Stadia, never used it. It's not perfect. I don't think it's a replacement for a console, but Google is refunding not just the software you bought, they're refunding the hardware. And from what I can tell, and from what I can tell, now I could be wrong, but from what I can tell on their page, you don't even have to mail it back. If you bought
Oh,
it through the
nice.
Google store, you're getting it. You're getting refunded. So I need to keep up on that. But mad respect for them on that move.
Right. That's surprising, actually.
Because Bungie removed a lot of content and they never refunded us for it. Whereas you got to play these games for a while. And look, it works, okay? I used Stadia and I used Xbox Cloud Gaming. And I found that Stadia actually had a more stable connection than Xbox Cloud Gaming. Now, don't get me wrong, Xbox with their Game Pass has more games and better deals. With Stadia, you have to pay for each game you want to play.
Right.
However, I have seen some really, really good deals on games. So there are a couple of games I got on there that were like ridiculously cheap because they had really good sales. And I found that the like I said, when I've played Destiny 2, the same game on Stadia and on Xbox Cloud. And the connection was more stable on Stadia. It was better. I'll let you know when I find out how they do it. So I'm going to be keeping up on it because I bought. Hey, if I'm going to get a refund, but I'm disappointed. I liked it.
Real quick, Alexia. So could the killer in Orphan. Who is in fact an older Slavic woman, but she passes herself off as a young girl to be adopted, and then does horrible things. But by that definition, she counts as a lolly too.
There's also, I saw something about a 23-year-old who, when she was like a child, she had a kind of brain cancer, and so she looks like she's a child. She's like in her 20s, but she looks like a child.
Yeah, that happens. It's very rare, but it does happen. Yeah, I was just making a point. I don't know if she actually is a lolly or not. She's just she's a grown woman who passes herself off as a child, and then gets obsessed with the man who adopts her and terrorizes the mother. It's a whole situation. Movie's okay. It's not the best in the world. And also, I would like to remind everybody here, while I catch up Mr. Chow just a little bit, that we had a rather lengthy and in-depth discussion about toilet facilities aboard the Enterprise.
Hey, I was here for that.
No, did you get to the part where we were talking about Scotty using his precision transporter skills to just beam the poop out?
No, I must have been absent for that one.
And why McCoy might have been as angry as he was is because he refused to use the transporters, and therefore was full of poop all the time.
Well, when you get that constipated, you get a little shitty.
I don't know. I think also it's just the fact that nobody listened to medical. Just never listened to McCoy. So it's like, you know what? Honestly, one of the things that, on the topic of Starfleet medicine, one of the things that pissed me off is the fact that everyone would get away with just not listening to McCoy. It's like, okay, it's like at some point, it's like, dude, he's the chief medical officer. If he tells you to get back to sickbay and you don't get back to sickbay, he can pull rank on your ass and have you back in sickbay whether you want to or not. It just...
You're not wrong.
That actually, this is a bit of a tangent here. It really have nothing to do with the topic of conversation. Just something that popped in my head that I've been thinking about for some time, and it does involve science fiction. And by science fiction, I mean Star Wars, which is barely science fiction. But The Return of the Jedi. Everybody here's seen that movie, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that the ending of that movie is much, much darker than everybody else.
Because they eat the people.
Have I talked to you about this?
No, I've known about it forever.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So, like, Han and Luke get captured by the Ewoks, and they're only saved because the Ewoks mistake C-3PO for their god, right? But they were going to be eaten by the Ewoks. Now, at the end of the Battle of Endor, when they're having their big celebration, and Han, Luke, and Leia are all guests at the celebration, and I think Lando's there too, and everybody's eating and drinking, and there are a number of Imperial helmets on spikes, and they don't really tell you whether or not those are just helmets or if there are heads in there too. Yeah, I think dinner was Imperial.
Yeah.
I think our heroes at that party for fear of offending their hosts who were known to eat sentient beings participated in cannibalism.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. They may not have even been aware of it, too. They might have just been like,
Oh
hey,
no,
this is
I
really
think
good.
they were fully aware because they were on the menu earlier in the movie.
Ah, yeah, you're right. No, but think about it. I've heard this theory before. I didn't hear the part where Han and Leia and Luke ate from them too, but the fact that the Ewoks are cannibals, well, technically they're not cannibals.
Well, no,
Because
they would be eating a different species, but
yeah,
as guests of them at that party, and you're eating and drinking, and what is being prepared?
people.
Who's serving it? And who would you maybe not want to piss off if you were a guest at their party?
The people that might eat you next.
Yes. I think Han, Luke, Leia, possibly even Lando ate Stormtrooper.
And then
And as we all know, the Stormtroopers, being space Nazis, were human.
Yes. It makes sense. I mean, like I said, I'd never heard this theory go that far, but I knew that Ewoks were 8 people.
Yeah.
That's possible, but again, like when you're dealing with an indigenous culture, especially one that has a wider palette, right? And you're on their planet, and they could turn on you in a second, because let's face it, the Ewoks are fickle as fuck. You don't insult them by turning down what they offer you.
No, but that leaves you with the other question now. If, let's say, you're Kirk, Spock, and McCoy beam down to a planet with a bunch of red shirts, and the red shirts are killed, and then they go through a whole thing, and they end up becoming friends with the people who kill the red shirts, but they eat the red shirts. Would Kirk and McCoy eat them if they're being, in the same situation?
I think that Kirk would probably try to get out of it, but would eventually do it just to be able to get back to his ship. But I think McCoy would probably be very outspoken and against it. Kirk would probably have to eat him too.
Probably.
And see, you might have cannabis them. That's okay. Ah, that's true. That might they might.
That is a possibility, but I mean, if they're not going to eat the stormtroopers, then Luke might have also convinced them that it wasn't okay to like put their heads on spikes too.
Well, they might have let them eat the stormtroopers, but they didn't eat it. Maybe Luke was able to at least be like, you know what? My friends are not hungry. They're good.
I will grant you that these are all great possibilities. I disagree. I think they ate the stormtroopers.
Hey, well, that's cool.
I think the ending of that movie is far darker than most people assume, because all they see is a celebration. They're like, oh yeah, but they didn't remember that halfway through that movie, that very same movie, our heroes were on the menu.
Yup, motherfucker. Yup.
Which by the way, is
remember
I have
kicking
no problem
Ewoks out of trees?
Yes, that's exactly where I was going with this. I have absolutely no problem punting an Ewok because of this.
Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that nobody really thinks about that, even if you put aside the fact that like Luke, Leia, Han, Lando maybe were cannibals, just the fact that the Ewoks eat people and everyone treats them like they're so cute, and it's like they eat people. They're not cute. They eat people.
And I'll grant you guys that it's possible that it was just the one time and they did it, for diplomatic reasons or under duress or whatever, and then they moved on with their lives and they never spoke of it again. Sure, possibly. Although I have my doubts about Lando. Dude was into some weird shit.
Raza Eslan ate human brains, so
I was about to say, didn't there some CNN guy who drove him absolutely insane or something? It like broke his brain.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much.
So maybe that's what happened with oh, you know what? All right. So for anybody who's seen the sequel trilogy, which by the way, if you haven't, don't, it sucks.
Dear God, don't.
But the way they treated Luke Skywalker in that, I think I figured it out.
Oh,
he had prion disease because he couldn't stop eating meat of the human variety. It fucked him up in the head. That's why he was so weak and weird and like not Luke anymore, because he had freaking mad cow disease of the human variety because he ate people. and kept eating people.
Oh dear
That
God,
is a
Luke.
Texas size 10-4.
Yeah. I think I solved it. Aha.
Wait, did see Alexa? Granted, do we even know if cannibalism is frowned upon in Star Wars? That's a good question. Maybe they
No,
don't.
we don't have any definite yes or no to that question.
But it's
I would
human nature.
imagine that it generally is because, generally speaking, most animals don't, most species don't consume their own kind. The few that do are either special cases like sharks and spiders, where they will consume anything and can consume anything, or you end up with like humans or cows, for example. That's what mad cow disease is. It's basically when you're feeding cow parts to cows. That's what happens. Um, Prions are nature's way of discouraging species from consuming their own kind.
Yeah, which is what happens. Like I write about a colony on Mars, and they are forced to cannibalism, and they try to keep it from the kids, but one of the kids figures it out, and he later kid admits to knowing about it. So it's like, what do you do? And you're like this kid, this 16-year-old is like I ate people. But no,
green is people.
Yeah, Lexi's on top of that.
no, my favorite though, I agree with folks that Han Solo and Leia were so perfect together, and I didn't like, so you know when you first come out of a movie, you're high on the excitement. After the fact, I looked at The Force Awakens, I'm like, this movie sucked. What they did to Han Solo was horrible. I don't like the fact that they turned him into a deadbeat dad.
I agree with all of that, except that I don't think that in general the movie sucked. I just think that I liked it better when I saw it the first time, and it was called Star Wars: A New Hope.
Ah, that's true.
Same
No,
damn movie.
I agree. It was I don't like the fact. I mean, I get it. Harrison Ford wanted out, so killing off him, I get that. But he would not have abandoned Luke or Leia. Not Luke. Oh my God, he would not have abandoned Leia and their kids. Well, one kid, and honestly, I think they would have had more kids.
I actually think I agree with your initial statement. I don't think he would have allowed Luke to wallow in self-despair
Oh,
and
that
retreat
too.
from the galaxy. He wouldn't have
Yeah,
let his friend do that.
no, he wouldn't have.
Right.
You know.
That's the whole
So
thing.
yeah, that whole trilogy sucks.
Yeah.
It does, but I say the same thing. I say it's the same movie as A New Hope. It's just everything's bigger in it, and also they make some really stupid choices with some of the characters.
Yeah.
But I said the same thing about Avatar too. James Cameron's magnus opus. I liked that movie a lot better when it was still called Fern Gully: The Last Rainforest.
Oh yeah.
Same movie.
Yeah.
Basically, I would say that Avatar is probably the prettiest waste of time I've ever sat through.
Hey, did you watch Titanic? I didn't, but that seems like a pretty decent chunk of
Anybody,
waste of time.
yeah, Titanic is one of the great sins of James Cameron.
I've never watched it.
You're not missing anything.
I'm pretty sure you already know how it ends.
I don't. Don't tell me. Don't ruin it for me.
Yeah, right. Spoiler alert: the boat sinks.
Oh my God!
Almost everybody dies.
Yeah.
No.
What in the ass?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
It's like watching what was it? Luc Besson did a movie called The Measure, right? And it was about Joan of Arc, right? And I'm much younger at the time, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch this movie. This should be pretty good. And I of course forget that I know exactly what happens to Joan of Arc.
Right.
Oh, she comes out as gender non-conforming and chooses and goes by they them pronouns.
No, what happened was they burned her alive. And it was graphic and a little too lengthy, that scene.
That's
Mila
Luc
Jovovich,
Besson
of course.
for you.
Well, Mila Jovovich, of course, played Joan of Arc, which was interesting. I say interesting in the same way that I think a two-headed cow fetus in a jar at a museum is interesting.
Eh.
Though I'm told if you are going to be burned at the stake, the best thing to do is to take deep breaths so that you can die of smoke inhalation before the fire really gets to you. Breathe in the smoke. Just keep taking deep breaths so you die of smoke inhalation.
Right.
I think that you should definitely, if you're going to be burned at the stake, take the Agnes Nutter way out.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. Yes, I know which one you mean. It took me a moment to remember that. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, totally. Just take them off. That was awesome.
Take them all with you.
Yeah.
For those of you in the chat who have not, I recommend reading Good Omens or The Nice and Accurate Prophecies of Agnes Nutter, Witch, by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman.
Sir
In
Terry
it,
Pratchett, thank you very much.
yeah, in it is a witch who is burned at the stake in the 1600s. Um, it goes by the name of Agnes Nutter, but because she's really a witch, she sees her death coming. So they march her down there, and when the fire really gets going, there's an explosion and the town is reduced to a lifeless crater. And the reason being is because she put a bunch of gunpowder and roofing nails in her pockets.
Yeah.
Just leveled the village.
The only witch that's more badass than Agnes Nutter is Granny Weatherwax.
Yeah.
That one I don't know.
Discworld, check it out. She's a great character. And
Okay.
by the way, an example of a strong woman in literature or fiction that was not less feminine because of it.
Yeah, well, that's I don't like. I've said this. I've ranted about this. I don't like this defeminizing women to make them look like they're strong because they're not women.
Gotta have the girl boss moment.
You can be a strong woman and still be feminine.
No, I get that. You know, I'm just
I'm-
being a douche.
No, well, like I'm creating. Like I
Be right
said,
back. My dogs are barking.
one thing I decided to do for my female characters, so I on the colony on Mars where they're forced to cannibalism, they're living in a war zone. I wanted to give them a feminine trait, something, I mean, they're living in a war zone, they're starving, they're dealing with all these difficulties. But you know what? The one thing they do, they braid. I love French braids. I love French braids. I'm like, would it be nice if they don't have anything? They're living in absolute poverty, but the one thing they do is they braid their hair. It's like it's that one luxury.
Mugsikins, you can watch Good Omens. It's not a perfect adaptation, and I think it's actually kind of mediocre. I would recommend the book.
Our books are always better.
Not always, but in most cases, yeah.
Most cases, yeah.
They typically are. And in this particular case, I think that they did an okay job adapting that book, but it was just okay. It wasn't fantastic. But that's my opinion. Like I know there are others who disagree with me on that.
Which
Chow,
book?
for example, I think you liked the adaptation of Good Omens better than I did.
Yeah, I enjoyed the TV series more than you did, but I watched it just, for the show itself.
Yeah. See, and I sat down and I watched it. I did enjoy it. I'm not saying I didn't. I'm just saying that by comparison to the book, it's kind of mediocre adaptation.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, no, the book is really good. I remember reading the book and really liking the book. I have seen the adaptation as well. Isn't David Tennant in it?
Yeah, he plays Crowley.
Which is what made it awesome because David Tennant is David Tennant, the best doctor in Doctor Who.
He played off of Michael Sheen too, who's a hell of a character actor.
Yeah, both of them were great. I mean, yeah, it's not a good adaptation, but it's decent. And again, David Tennant. I'm just David Tennant. I refuse to watch Doctor Who after David Tennant.
Yeah.
So I haven't
me
even
too.
seen.
Hey, okay, so Matt Smith, he wasn't a terrible doctor. He just wasn't a great one.
So.
And the problem is when he became the doctor, they focused more on the companion than they did on the actual Doctor Who story. So.
And then they brought in Jodie Whittaker, which it's interesting. I know some guys who are willing to humor the idea of a female doctor, whereas me, I was like, no, just no. But then I heard she was terrible anyway, so I want. And now what they're doing, you know what I want as the doctor? A story. It's going to horrify people. A straight white man from England or Wales or Scotland.
You sure they're going with a gay black man from England?
No. No.
I think that's been announced, actually.
I know, but no. To me, Doctor Who ended with David Tennant. And no, the future is not female. This is stupid. That's him lying. I know you. Yeah. I told you. The guy, he's saying the future is female. He's saying that to get under my skin. Because he knows I hate that nonsense.
Well, there have been a number of civilizations that have been matriarchal in nature. None of them still exist.
I was about to say, do any of them exist?
No, no, they
I didn't
don't.
think so.
You know, and actually, there is a movie out now about one of them.
Oh yes.
Which movie?
The Woman King.
Oh yeah, where they completely sugarcoated the entire fact that that was a slaver tribe.
Oh, they weren't just a slaver tribe; they were a slaver empire.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and it's
And they
not
were
like,
for hundreds of years before Europeans got there.
Yeah.
and the thing
They,
is, it's not even like they changed the history. So they basically reversed the history. It's one thing if you like gloss over it, not focus on it, maybe, try change things slightly. No, they literally kind of basically reversed the whole thing. Where it's like, no, they weren't slavers. Yes, they were.
yeah, I wasn't going to talk about this movie at all, but Larry, we did a stream last night, and he got me to talk about it a bit then, so I'll follow suit here. But yeah, there are a number of problems with this movie aside from the sugarcoating, starting with the title, which is intersectional bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
The Woman King is that no, that's because the kinds of people who make these movies believe that if that women are somehow lesser to men and therefore must subsume men's roles
Right.
in order to be considered, equal to or greater than, and that's simply not the case. Queen is just fine. Queen, depending on the thing, that the situation, queens are as powerful, if not more powerful, than our kings.
Yeah.
The whole thing is stupid, but yeah, the Dahomey whole thing, man, those guys made the Aztecs look conservative when it came to sacrificing slaves.
Yeah. I heard about some of the horrible things they did.
I mean, somebody had a birthday, they'd behead 100 of them.
Yeah. Is that what you do on someone's birthday?
I mean, apparently there.
Happy birthday! You got a head or 100, but
That's what they give you in the goodie bags. They give you bags with heads in them. Everyone gets a head from after the party to remember the party by.
Oh yeah.
The thing is, one of the other things is I don't like it when they insult me. And one of the actresses like, if you don't come and watch this movie, it's the end of movies with black female leads. No, honey, it's not. And just for that, I'm not watching your movie. I don't care. The thing is, you expect me, after you insult me, to spend my money on your product. Not happening.
Yeah, and that goes for anybody who insults their audience. Doesn't matter if you insult your audience, you shouldn't be getting the money. You're driving away. Your core there. You're going to lose revenue.
Yep.
One way or the other. And that's why I like Eric July's approach. He's like, you can hate me all you like. If you want to buy my books, I'll still sell them to you.
Yeah. No, because everybody. No, I fully agree. And it's something that even people basic retail know. Don't insult the customer. Oh, you want to insult the customer sometimes, but you don't because you
Michael
want to
Jordan
come back.
said it best. Michael Jordan said it best in the 90s when there was a faction who wanted him to come out and say something about Republicans or conservatives or some shit like that. And the response that he gave, doesn't matter how he personally feels about it. He said, Republicans buy shoes too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Which
don't
is the
understand.
only capitalist response to any of this.
Yep.
That's why I don't understand how dumb people have gotten. I mean, if people in retail were getting paid a fraction of what these people are getting paid, no better than to insult their customer. Like if someone comes to me, I've used the example of if someone comes into the store and they want to buy an iPhone and you're like, are you stupid? What's wrong with you? Don't buy Apple, buy Android, buy the Samsung phone instead. Not only are they not going to buy a Samsung phone for you, they're not going to buy an iPhone either. The moment you insult them, they're going to walk out and fund somebody else.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if you threaten or insult me for not buying your product, watching your movie, playing your video game, well, there's 100 other video games I can play.
Yeah.
No, she tried to change the narrative. So she's trying to retcon the past, where she's like,
Oh, you're talking
no,
about yeah.
I don't. I regret that the marketing turned it into a feminist thing. It's like, no, honey, you did that. But now you're
Is that
trying to
Emma
pretend it never
Banks or
happened.
something Banks? What was it? Elizabeth Banks. That's it.
Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah, I actually quite liked her as an actress too for a long time.
Yeah, and then she
You know, I
became a
think I thought.
feminazi.
Well, I think that in some respects, some of these people always were, but they kept their mouths shut about it in public. You
Right.
know, and that way you could still enjoy their works and not have to worry about. Like, I watch any given movie these days, or television show or whatever. If I see somebody I recognize, right, I prefer unknowns at this point because if I see somebody I recognize, I got probably a 75% chance of knowing exactly how they feel about me,
Yeah.
and I'd rather not.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want to know either. And no, or the latest one with the Saints Row reboot video game which came out, which did not sell well. I can tell you it did not sell well. And one of the people in charge of the company was like, if you don't like this game, he was saying that the people who were criticizing the game are like terrorists. So I actually tweeted at them. I'm like, oh, so you're calling me, a Muslim woman, a terrorist because I don't like your shitty game. Oh, damn. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to play the earlier games. I'm not wasting my money on your garbage. Go broke. The game didn't sell.
Or you
right.
could just go. You could just threaten to go blow up their stack of soda.
Problem is, it's Twitter. Wait a minute. It's like, okay, what? So you're calling me? I mean, that's why this whole thing going on right now is just ridiculous. Like, I already dealt with this once, where it's called a terrorist and all of that other stuff. And I agree with her. I agree with Alexia. If people worked in retail and just realized how to deal with customers, yeah, it makes you more tolerant because you understand more the person. No, but once you've been in the position of a salesperson, next time you want to get pissed at a salesperson, you know what it's like. But oh yeah, that game flopped really, really hard, really hard. Like I can tell you, we didn't have any pre-orders for that game. Nobody
Which
wanted.
game?
So Saints Row reboot.
Oh, right.
eh,
The one you were just
yeah,
talking about. Sorry, I've been
yeah.
having a little bit of issues with the connectivity here, so some of that cut in and out. On my end, I'm sure you guys all heard it just fine.
No, I'm cutting it out real bad.
Yeah, I'm
So,
not that bad, but I'm hearing cut as well. It's imagine
Maybe
if hmm?
maybe it's Mama Susan.
maybe.
Maybe.
No. I'll be back
Yes.
again. I gotta let my dogs in.
Yes, I agree. I did see that movie. It was released during the pandemic, and it got almost no press, and it should have gotten a
I've
little
never
bit
heard of
more
it.
press. Um, so it's about a group of engineers and such who are an underwater oil rig near the Marianas Trench, right? So about a mile below sea level, and something goes wrong, and the whole rig kind of collapses in on itself as it does when it's subjected to too much pressure that it can no longer
Yeah.
sustain. And so a handful of them survive, Kristen Stewart being one of them, and they have to walk along the bottom of the Marianas Trench in these like super high pressure suits
Oh
to
wow.
get to safety. The problem is that it wasn't just a natural disaster; it was fucking Cthulhu.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's a movie about Cthulhu?
Well, kind of. It's more about the isolation and the crushing despair and madness at the bottom of the sea, and actually very good. It is technically a horror movie, but it wasn't scary so much as it was interesting to watch. I actually really enjoyed it, and Kristen Stewart, who was weirdly very good in it. I enjoyed her performance a lot. I thought she was
Oh.
great in that movie.
Oh, by the way, I have a guest.
I mean, yeah, probably. Sorry, spoilers. I say
Uh,
shit
I have
and
a
don't
little
fix that.
guest.
I see. Little. What do you mean taking up like a cork screen?
Hey,
So,
boo. Yeah, see, he's saying you need to lose weight too.
right. Those of you who were watching last night's stream, though, we talked about underwater then too.
I have to
Um,
see this movie now.
kind of not, kind of. Um, it's interesting. I'd say go ahead and watch it. It's not anywhere near as good as The Thing is. Very few cosmic horror movies are. That one's on a level on its own, but I would say definitely check out Underwater. It's It was not a bad little movie. I really enjoyed it.
Huh. I have to look into this. I'm curious to see it now.
Yeah, and
Especially
I
if
was
the
shocked because Kristen Stewart is the freaking main character, and she's usually so wooden with her acting. She's usually almost unwatchable, but she was actually really good in this.
What,
Huh.
underwater?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Huh, I'm gonna check it out.
I've been telling you to check it out for a year.
Yeah, well, it's got Kristen Stewart, so it's on the back burner for at least 4 more years.
I know, I know, I know,
Because
but
I can't
no, it's
stand that broad.
I was concerned about that too going into it, but she actually puts in a solid performance in this one.
Fair enough.
So
Huh. Okay, I'm curious to see this now. Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm trying to train her to come when I shake the thing, but it still doesn't work. She comes when she wants to come.
yeah.
I don't know where
That
she went.
Chow. It also features Vincent Cassell.
Nice.
So if that's any indication as to some of the caliber of actors who were in it, it was and he's for all those of you who don't know, he's a very famous French actor. He's done a few movies in the States. He did this really disturbing flick with I can't remember her name. Very attractive woman was in Passion of the Christ. Was also in this other one I'm about to mention, The Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is a French movie, but very good. About the Beast of Gévaudan.
Hmm.
And I
That
can
one's
rent it on Amazon for $3.99.
Yep.
Even though I'm trying
Uh,
not to give Amazon my money anymore. I am mad at Amazon. Very
yeah.
mad at Amazon.
Not everything Amazon makes sucks. Just I
Wheel of
and
Time and Rings of Power.
Yeah,
Dear
those are kind
God.
of the big ones. So, and they suck ass.
Oh, God.
So,
I haven't watched either of them, and I have no intention of doing so.
oh, I haven't watched them either. I've just heard a whole bunch of really negative
Oh.
reviews.
The
So,
Cat
problem
had
is,
cats had to watch some of this shit.
no, well, the problem is there's a I made a whole video about episode 6, and the problem is I haven't made my first and second one, the one for the first and which it keeps going off to ending up being a half an hour long, so I haven't posted my third review or my fifth review, I don't know, but the idea of suspension of disbelief, the ability to, for example, in Destiny you have the magic space ball that appears and gives people power and immortality. The thing is, the way they present it in a way that's believable. So you can suspend your sense of disbelief that no, there's no magic space ball called the Traveler that suddenly appears and gives people powers and stuff. But because there's certain rules, limitations, regulations, just they present it in a way that it makes sense. In Warframe, you have the ability to transfer only the Tenno have the ability to transfer their minds into the Warframes. Again, they present it with logic, rules, they try to come down with the basic tenets behind it. Things happen in Rings of Power that to me are so stupid that no one with any sense of brain at all would never make these decisions. They have a fortification and a tower, basically, and the only way to get to the tower is through a bridge. Otherwise, you have massive cliff sides on either end. So you have a bridge, right? Okay, right? You want to know how they defend this? Everybody flees from the tower. The tower itself is designed so that it's basically being held up by iron beams on the outside and held together with a rope. And if you cut the rope, the entire tower collapses. And so the enemy, the orcs, go into the tower. Mr. Don Lemonless shoots an arrow with flames, collapses the tower on top of them. It's like, and so now their only defense is from a village, like with no walls, no nothing, just a village. Like, wait a minute, all you had to do was bomb the bridge, you morons. The only way to get to the tower is to the bridge or to climb up the sheer cliffs. So if they bomb the bridge, they'd have to climb up the cliffs, which you would have the upper hand by throwing stones and arrows at them. So it's so moronically stupid on a level that it breaks my suspension of disbelief. I cannot believe anybody would be this dumb.
yeah, well, that's pretty much how it goes these days. All current media is just an insult to our intelligence collectively.
But something that utterly moronic.
Woke.
Writers are stupid.
No, but this is on a level, like, I am no military genius. I am no scholar in medieval. And the thing is, I watched Shad's video, and even before he said, bomb the bridge, my first thought was, bomb the bridge.
Right.
So you have an elf who's like 200 or 300 years old who would have figured it out. You have a whole bunch of people who just common sense would have said, take down the bridge. How do you write something this moronically stupid? I don't get it. Seriously, how?
I will tell you how. Okay, so the writers that they're bringing in have no experience doing anything in the writing world in the first place. Most of the time, they come right out of college with no, indication of how the real world works outside of their little, commie biomes, and they've never done anything in their lives, so they don't know how things work. They have no real world experience of any kind, and writers write what they know, and these guys know nothing. Ergo, they write nothing.
But
Pretty much.
no, but I mean, this is a level of stupid that's just incomprehensible. Where it's like, you literally, the only way to get to this tower is by a bridge. You don't want the bad guy to come to the tower. The only way the bad guy can come to the tower is over the bridge. So you're saying, oh my God, knocking the tower down would look so... The entire story after that point relies on this stupid move, because now they're defending the village. It's like, none of it would have happened if you had the brain to destroy the bridge and hide in the tower.
I think
Yeah.
this about sums it up.
Yeah.
I
You don't even have to, have brains, just balls. Look at Temple of Doom, right? When Indiana Jones is out on the rope bridge, and he's got Mola Ram is coming after him with all of his Tuggy cult members, and he's got Short Round and the chick Willie on the other side, and he makes a choice right then and there. What does he do? He cuts the ropes while he's still on the bridge. He prevents the passage of the Tuggies to his friends and to the village that they're trying to help out, and nearly kills himself doing it, which took balls.
Yes. I don't understand how anybody can be this dumb. And that's why, to me, that's one of my biggest problems, why I give it 1 star. It is unwatchable to me because it breaks all sense of belief. These decisions they make are so monumentally stupid.
Yeah, it tracks.
No, but I mean, even in Star Trek Beyond had some dumb stuff in it, but at least you could use the excuse of sci-fi magic, space magic, whatever. This is just logic. This is, dear God, blow up the bridge. Blow up the bridge. No, even a panel of writers, if I were there, I'd be like, okay, you brain-dead morons, you freaking stupid idiots. How stupid do you have to be? Let me explain it to you in baby terms.
Yeah, get out your crayons and your Big Chief notebook.
Yes! And I'd be like, you don't want the bad guys to go from here to here. What's between here and here? The bridge. What do? You break the bridge.
Yes, Falk, I believe it is the most expensive series of all time.
Yeah. It is.
It's
Where's
also-
the money going to? I saw a screenshot and it looked like the Numenorians were wearing yoga pants.
Right?
Oh, the costumes. The reason it's taken me so long to make a video about the first 2 episodes is because one of the things that also really bothers me is that the aesthetics don't fit. Now, I found a fan who drew
Don't eat them.
a picture of children from Warframe. So the corpus, they never show the corpus children, but the person understood the aesthetic well enough that if you saw the picture of the children that this person drew, you can see the aesthetic and the design and the similarity. You could actually, I would almost believe that the developer designed it. It fits the aesthetic of the corpus. When you look at the costuming and the design for the elves in Rings, most of the characters, it doesn't fit. The elves don't look like elves. The children's clothing, you would not say it's elves. They look like, the aesthetic, it's cheap. I think the costumes feel like somebody went to the Salvation Army store, bought the crap at the back, then stopped by Bed Bath & Beyond and bought the cheapest sheets they can find, and they're like, look at me. And then they went to and got haircuts at Supercuts. I seriously think one of the first things if I were Jeff Bezos, one of the first things I would do after seeing this show, I would look and say, I want to see the budget. I want to see where the money was spent, because I've little doubt at this point there has to be some kind of money laundering being done.
I'd be willing to bet that's already happened. He's probably in the process of figuring out which heads are going to roll publicly for this.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in season 2.
Yeah, because they contracted out. They have a go-ahead on season 2. They have contracted for 5 seasons.
Yep.
They're committed to these 5 seasons. One way or the other, that money's getting paid to somebody. But I would imagine that there are probably going to be some changes coming down the line, because rumor has it Bezos is pissed.
I would be pissed too. You've got the trashiest authors. My God, when my Warframe fan stories are higher quality, yeah, they probably spent it on cocaine. And I'm no expert writer.
I'm Dr. Roxo. I do cocaine.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not getting paid to write. I put more effort into my Warframe stories. I write when my trash looks better than theirs. Then you know you're doing it wrong. I mean, how do the dialogues are clunky? The stories are so seriously.
It's all just to push their ideology. That's all any of this is. And the reason it sounds so clunky and sounds so stupid is because that's how the ideology sounds. Clunky and stupid. All right? When you really boil this stuff down, it's impossible to subscribe to the ideology that they're trying to shove down your throat, because it's clunky, stupid, undigestible, unwieldy, ungainly, and ridiculous. And they just keep hammering at it. And the reason that they're getting the highly rated reviews is because frickin' Amazon owns IMDb, all right? They've greased enough hands and greased enough pockets in Rotten Tomatoes and any of the critics that, yeah, of course the critics are going to have all good things to say about it, because what do you know? They're getting paid to do it. You pay me enough, I'll say nice things about whatever you want. I promise. I'm a whore.
I am amazed that people this stupid exist.
No, it's not even all that amazing, because look at how most people are today. Look at how people are in the world at large. All right? This ridiculousness is everywhere. There's no logic. There's no sensibility. It's all, feeling. It's all, well, my emotions say this. My feelings say that. You know what? Feelings and emotions make no sense. And when you write about feelings and emotions and push ideology based on feelings and emotions, you get exactly dick.
Whereas,
Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, it's because I am looking at this show, and I am baffled and amazed by just how much money was spent and the crap we are getting.
See, when they originally pitched this show, they were actually bringing in, Tolkienian scholars, and then they cut them, and then cut everything that they helped with. Put it on the cutting. Yeah, when they got rid of Tom Shippey, that was the final nail in the coffin of this one. All right, that is what proved it could be a train wreck. And the big problem is you're trying to take events that happened over thousands, literally thousands of years, and you're trying to condense it all into one event. Yeah, kiss my ass.
But even if you put aside the Tolkien aspect of it, which, yeah, I mean, just looking at Galadriel alone, just again, the bridge, how much brains does that take?
More than the producers have. That's how much brains that takes.
Or the orcs. I mean, this season costs more than the entire trilogy made by Peter Jackson, because we did the math. $455 million for all 3 seasons in 2021 money. Okay? This cost
Opie and Anthony was better than Howard Stern. I said what I said.
8 episodes, 60 million an episode, $480 million for this one season. It cost more than the all 3 trilogy combined. and that looked so much better. One of the things someone pointed out is the actor who plays King Theoden. He's like they put into the armor detail you don't see because they wanted it, and yet Chad is like she's wearing a shirt printed with like armor, like the design of armor. He's like, it's like my $50 hoodie.
Yeah. Muggsy, I definitely agree with you, and yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Shipper was under NDA.
You know,
Gotta
I
cover
gotta.
your legal behinds.
I'm gonna have to add a fuck ROP hashtag to this stream, aren't I?
Yep, you are. So, I hate to say it, but I'm gonna have to go soon. My dogs are upstairs. I'm assuming wreaking havoc.
we are probably actually gonna call it because I think I don't know. It's been pretty good today.
Right. Well, now that I got all my technical bugs worked out, next week I should be okay.
Yeah. Here's fingers crossed. Meantime, all right, Chow, you got anything you want to plug?
No, just keep tuning in, like, share, subscribe, enjoy our little rant sessions, I guess. You know, I mean, that's kind of what we do.
Cat's not the only one who rants. Haha.
Just show up and be here. And thanks for listening to this undead priest yap his brains out.
Yeah. Cat, anything you got coming up?
Well, Muggsykins is apparently threatening my cat with me getting onto Guild Wars 2, so I will eventually have to get onto Guild Wars 2, which I love Guild Wars 2. Let me just share something. One thing. Where is it?
Yes, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2.
Check this out.
All right.
Thanks for coming, Seven.
Yeah. Look what somebody did. Look what that old vaping, grumpy old vaping gamer.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry, cool. I had to show that off. He did that. Other than that, not much going on. Yeah, just gonna live stream, play video games, and cry as I think of Rings of Power.
Fair enough.
Just don't think about it.
Yeah. I say, or I don't know. I just don't watch the damn thing. I know you got to for Legion Talk, but I don't. Haha. Moving on. I do actually have Lawrence Knight and I have started doing a kind of a midweek show. We're calling it Abyssal Musings because I like the theme of names that just kind of go along together. Anyway, the last couple episodes we did were mostly about horror movies. We'll see where we go from there, but it does kind of tie into something else. I am going to watch the Hellraiser reboot next week, and I will likely be putting out at some point a review of it. We'll see how it goes. That said, keep an eye out for the Whispering in the Dark solo streams because they pop up whenever they pop up. And always you can find us here Saturday afternoons at Screaming into the Void on Samuel the Infamous. Yeah, just keep coming back. Thanks for coming, participating. Glad to see all of you here. And we've even got some new faces today, and that's been fantastic.
Love seeing new people.
Yeah. So yeah, just get the word out there, spread it out there. We'll close out the poll here. I will post the results in the chat. It looks like Sisko wins.
Okay, of course, Sisko's just the man.
Kirk at 20%.
Because he's black,
Picard
isn't it?
20%.
No, it's because he's hot.
Because he don't take no shit.
And he don't take no shit. Sisko don't take no shit.
I don't know. I just think someone mentioned that no one voted for Janeway because she's a woman. I figured it was just because she was a terrible captain.
That'd be my assumption. She's a terrible captain with no regard for the Prime Directive or Starfleet regulation. Yeah.
I said screw the Ocampa. I want to go home.
Yeah.
No. I didn't vote for Janeway because she's not Sisko. I love Sisko.
Y'all really need to listen to the USS and make shit up. I'm serious. You need to listen to it. It's great.
Yeah.
What is it? Wait, what is it?
You know what? I'll see if I can link it.
I mean, I actually
It's
paid
another
for tech.
song by Aurelia Voltaire.
Yeah. So, are you gonna link it in the main chat or
Private jet.
private chat? Okay. All right. Well, that brings us to a close, guys. Alexia, I don't have any issue with
All
that.
right, Alexia, no, you need to vote for Sisko. Just
Well, it's
trust
too
me
late.
on
The
this.
poll's closed. She didn't say anything about
Oh
her taking vote.
no, Alexia, just trust me on this. Sisko's the
We'll just say
man.
that she was one of the votes for that. I mean, if Biden can do it, so can I. That said, thank you all for coming. Seriously, we appreciate it. We appreciate you spending the time with us. And this has been Screaming into the Void. We are all your dancing monkeys. YouTube, remember, it could always be worse. It could be raining flaming cobras.
And since I didn't get to do it at the top of the episode, party on, Wayne.
Party on, Garth. Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.